So I just got back from shooting the H&R M16A1 for the first time. Just picked it up at the FFL. Drove out to the land where I shoot and put about 150, 200 rounds through it, and pretty excited to show it off. And this is the first run of M16s that H&R has put out. I mean, this rifle serial number is literally number 26, so that shows you how early in production this is. And it's got all your usual A1 features, Vietnam era features anyway. So kind of going into what makes an A1 an A1, right here you have your birdcage flash hider that has the slots that go all the way around. Your A2 flash hider will be sealed up on the bottom and have vents on the top. A1s are different. They also use a split lock washer there. Notice the barrel's a little thinner too. This is a .625 thousandths of an inch profile all the way through, unlike the A2, which is a .750 or something. It steps up to right at the end here. Your front gas block is your usual non-F marked, but your A1 is going to have a tapered front sight post instead of one that's squared off. Sling swivel, rubber coated, that's an A1 feature. 625 gas journal, so normally your gas blocks are going to be .750 on your modern ARs. This is true .625. I know some barrel companies will do a .750 barrel front sight block, and then they'll step it down to .625, so it looks sort of correct, but it's not a true 625 gas block. Triangle handguards, these are Brownells, I believe. I mean, they're good. They're a pretty solid approximation. Triangle nose cap, that was retained on the A2 and the A1. And barrel's a 1 in 12 twist. Probably going to cap out around 62 grain. I probably should have brought some 62 grain to test it out with, but yeah, it's a 1 in 12. So your 77 grains probably are not going to stabilize well out of this, your 69 grains, etc. Another A1 feature you're going to see is it's got a totally round slip ring here. M16A2 onwards, and they would have a delta ring. A lot of these early guns had this gray finish to them. They're not really black. I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up in this lighting. I think that's why it was about $100 more than the black anodized finish. Black's pretty easy to accomplish, but trying to get a proper gray finish that looks like a Vietnam era finish, I'm guessing has a higher rate of failure. I know Brownells, they switched from a gray to a black, I think because they were having such a high rate of failure. When it came to the anodizing, they had a bunch come out that looked purple and stuff, and you'll still see those Brownell Blem rifles that are purple. Yeah, all the machining on this looks great. The magazine release is also gray. I think this is also different of the A1 as well. This little shape here, the dust cover has this pinned in little nub here. I think the other ones, I think the A2 is slightly different. I'd have to verify with that. A1 pistol grip is completely smooth here, which I don't really prefer. I do prefer the A2 pistol grip, and it has this little hole right here where a sling swivel used to go on the early prototypes. Trigger guard's pretty much standard AR-15, same with your magwell magazine release. So with the A1 as well, you get this full fencing. The earlier guns, they were just flat here. They didn't have these ribs that come up. This rib here, of course, holds your detent for your captured front takedown pin, and then this rib here is just to protect the magazine release. Forward assist, that was an M16A1 feature, or XM16E1 feature. They added that at the request of the Army. The Air Force never wanted that, and it is teardrop shaped. On the A2, they would go to sort of a fat round one and then a smaller round one, which is pretty much the modern example. Your safety it's just smooth here. I think that's correct for the A1. There's no notch that shows you on the other side if you're on safe, semi, or auto. Speaking of, going around to the other side of the rifle here, see you got your roll marks, got your H&R logo, property of U.S. government, M16A1 mark. Pretty cool, pretty cool. It's obviously laser engraved. It's not roll marked. Roll marks are way cooler than laser engraving because you get that raised metal effect around them. But I think they did a very good job here. They set the resolution of that laser pretty fine, and it's cut pretty sharp, which I like to see. Some laser engraving is just really amateur. Another A1 feature here is going to be your bolt hold open. It has this little button on the bottom of the ping pong paddle, so you can more easily lock the bolt to the rear. That's pretty much your modern ping pong paddle, bolt catch, bolt release. Harrington Richardson is now owned by PSA, so it's made in West Columbia, South Carolina, same as PSA. The original Harrington Richardson was made somewhere else. I don't really recall at this time. It has your safe, semi, and auto markings, which is pretty cool. I think I just found the blem on this. I mean, you have a little bit of some rough forge markings left over here in the trigger guard, so that was my blem, I suppose. I do like the fact that, keeping with the sort of retro aesthetic of it, they do leave a lot of the forge flash on the rifle. A lot of modern carry handle ARs, like your Rock Rivers and stuff, they will just mill that completely flat. That was how these rifles would have looked in the 60s and 70s. They would have definitely had some of the forge flashing left over. So your A1 rear sight is a lot different than your A2 rear sight. Instead of having one aperture that's small and one aperture that's big, you have two small apertures. Your regular aperture is your, I believe, your 0 to 250 battle sight 0 aperture, and then your other aperture marked L is your long range aperture for 300 meters out. This is only windage adjustable, and it's not very easily windage adjustable. You have to press this little detent in here and then kind of move it around. It's supposed to be done with a bullet tip. It's kind of a pain in the ass, to be honest. And I forgot to mention this too, but the front sight post of the A1s had 5 little notches cut in them rather than the 4 of the A2. T-handle, charging handle was a feature that was added. The M16A1s, I believe, had a triangle handle. This is pretty much the same as a modern AR-15, M4, M16 charging handle, so that was an A1 feature. The A1 lower receiver, it's not reinforced here around the buffer tube. When they went to the A2, they put a little bit of extra material there, supposedly to help reinforce it. Moving on to the buttstock, got your A1 buttstock. It's the same tube on the inside as the A2 buttstock, but the A2 has a little spacer. The A1 is about 5/8 of an inch shorter than the A2 stock. And I believe this butt plate here is supposed to be made out of rubber, but this is definitely some kind of hard plastic. This is, again, all Brownell's furniture, and this would be, I believe, a Type D stock. It's got this swivel here rather than a fixed rear sling swivel. It's rubber coated as well. A roll pin here if you want to punch that out. Just a single screw, and the screw does have a hole. That serves two functions. With your buffer tube, right, if you have your buffer moving back and forth, if there's no hole in there, you need sort of a bleed off, right, because it's going to be compressing the air inside that buffer tube. So you need some way for the air to escape, and that's what that screw hole's for. The other reason too is drainage. If your rifle fills with water, you need some way for the water to get out. So that's pretty much your rundown of A1 features. Notice there's no trapdoor on this. I think that was a later buttstock they added to your A1s, because remember the A1 served from, I think, like 66 on till 1985, right? The 1985 was the A2. So I don't think they added that trapdoor until much later. Same thing with the sights. I think at some point some of the A1s got upgraded and they changed out the sights. Like, for example, my dad, he carried one of these in basic training, and the first thing he asked was, where's the larger aperture? Again, I think there was an upgrade package at some point where they did the small aperture, large aperture change to it. Now, the rifle does not come with this sling. The rifle just comes in a box. You get a magazine, you get a lock, you get a couple stickers, and a cardboard box that says Harrington and Richardson on it. So, on to my impressions of the gun. Fit and finish wise, this gun's really, really nice, honestly. The gray is just like a perfect tone, really nice. Like I said, I already commented a little bit on the roll marks, or rather the laser marking. Laser engraving is really nice. And one thing I was really impressed with straight away with this rifle is how the upper and lower has absolutely zero movement between it, which is like boggles the mind, right? Because every military issued M16, M4 has a ton of slop in it, and most of my AR-15s also have a ton of slop in it too. It doesn't really bother me. All your accuracy is in that upper receiver anyways. As long as that upper receiver is solid and put together well. I will say the first time I tried to pop this dowel pin out, it was pretty stiff. I had to really hook under it and pull it out. But that's a good thing. I mean, the anodizing process adds thickness to the parts. It's not like bluing. Got your hole drilled in the top of the carry handle for your optic as well. So, yeah, overall impressions, fit and finish wise, really high quality. Again, the only thing I think that's leaves a little bit to be desired in that aspect is the furniture, but I think I'll probably get some original furniture or find a way to maybe spray paint this. This butt plate as well, like I said, I think this is plastic. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be rubber, so I'll probably find some rubber replacement for that. But other than that, I mean, this gun is just fantastically put together. Now on to the bad, the performance-wise. I think the first couple magazines I put through it, I had failures on every single round. It was failure to feed. God damn it. Again, failure to feed. Didn't feed again. Failure to feed again.
It was government property.
Failure to feed, again.
It's either magazine or ammo.
I tried to determine if it was the ammo, I tried to determine if it was the magazines, and it was definitely the rifle, but it seemed to go away after about 10 or 12 rounds, 10 or 12 failures. I stopped getting those failure to feeds, but on the last round, the bolt was locking open kind of weird. It was locking open on the carrier with the bolt kind of shoved over the follower.
Good.
Locked back on the follower. See, it's locked back on the follower.
Works fine.
Okay, but it locks back on the follower again. That's really weird.
Let me see it.
See what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I see it.
After a while, that worked itself out as well, and the gun started functioning fine.
Put some lead in there.
Okay. Right on. I guess it just needed to warm up a little bit.
Works fine. Works fine. Works fine.
And accuracy-wise, man, this thing is a f***ing laser beam. I was only really shooting from 25 yards, and I shot at 100 yards, but the target I had set up for 100 yards with I was shooting prone unsupported. I wasn't very happy with my ability to shoot, and I think that was because I couldn't really see the target all that well. I need to get actual black bullseye targets for shooting iron sights. So most of the time I was shooting at 25 yards, and I was shooting like clusters, like literal every shot touching the next one. So my first 3-round group was pretty poor. The second 3-round group was like a 1/4 of an inch at 25 yards. I should have taken a picture of that because then I shot up the target. Okay, that worked fine. I was having the reliability issues, so after trying to figure that out, put up a new target, started zeroing the rifle again, and yeah, man, I was putting shots in the same hole pretty much. I put like 5 shots in the same hole at 25 yards. So this is definitely like a 2 MOA gun at the minimum. And I was shooting pretty cheap 55 grain ammo, which this rifle is set up for 55 grain ammo. And it was running with every magazine after that point: PMag, 20 rounder, 30 rounder, USGI, Brownells, OK Industries. So pretty happy with that. The fatal issue I'm having with this gun at this point in time, and I saw someone post about this on the ARFCOM thread, was that I cannot zero the rifle. So I have the front sight post bottomed out completely. When I pulled the rifle out of the box and tried to get my zero initially, I was shooting about 8 inches low at 25 yards with how the sights were set from the factory. It was also shooting about 2 inches to the left. So I lowered the front sight post to raise my impacts up, and after bottoming out the front sight post, I could only get the rifle to shoot about 2.5, 3 inches low at 25 yards. And at 100 yards, I think it was about 8 inches low or 7 inches low, something like that. I have a picture, I'll splice that in. Another issue I was having too was after one complete revolution, so that's 6 notches on the A1 windage here, I was still shooting to the left, and if I go any further, I'm going to run out of windage too, so I cannot zero this rifle at this point. Reliability, accuracy-wise, this rifle is pretty great, but I think there might have been an issue with this first run of A1s. Again, this is literally the first run of H&R A1s, and this is the first PSA product I've ever purchased. Apparently PSA has issues with their first generation firearms. So this is the first time this has ever happened to me, because I usually don't buy Palmetto State Armory. So yeah, that's unfortunate, because everything about this rifle, you know, I've been looking forward to this rifle for about 2 years now. Ever since H&R was bought by PSA, I've been looking forward to having this rifle. When I was in high school, you know, this was like my dream rifle, right? This is, really loved all the Vietnam War films and video games and literature and whatnot. I really loved the A1. So to finally have it in hand is awesome. And this thing really does look and feel exactly how like I wanted it to. It weighs about 6 3/4 pounds, by the way. With the sling, it's probably a little bit more than that. It's just great. It's a nice fitting rifle, nice and soft shooting. The sights are fantastic. I don't prefer the A1 front sight post. I prefer the A2 squared off front sight post, but you know, I'm not going to change that out. I'm not going to change out the rear aperture, because this is my Vietnam gun. You know, this isn't supposed to be, I'm not taking this to Camp Perry. I will probably send it back to PSA, or in fact I have to send it back to PSA. I can't just have a rifle that's not zeroed. And hopefully they can solve that issue for me. But other than that, yeah man, it's a sick rifle. I like it. I'm really happy with the quality of this rifle. I just need to have that issue solved.